Hello everyone and welcome to Sunburned Albino ranks every boss, waifu in Persona 5 from easiest to hardest, worst to best. Every girl in this game has a great confidant story to tell, but which ones really speak to you? Of all the lovely ladies out there that either know you're a phantom thief already or take 10 ranks to discover it, which ones really captured your attention on an emotional / purely physical level? Let's start with the bottom end and work our way to the front. Wink. Also, definitely spoilers to plot points of the game and the conversations in general. Number 9, Oya. I think this is a common consensus among the waifu rankers in the world. Oya is an alcoholic journalist, and while she has an admirably unwavering work ethic in the face of adversity and a gung-ho attitude in her dogged pursuit of the truth, she's still kinda gross. She's like a friend of your mom's back when she was in high school who, when you meet her for the first time, it makes you wonder what kind of a person your mom must have been. She becomes a confidant by using you as a phantom thief's information cow, and by the end of it, you've given her enough scoops to open a Baskin-Robbins. Oya's struggle as a confidant problem to be solved stems from her previous journalist partner, Kaio, who mysteriously disappeared after a situation in which a man they were researching wound up dead. Oya, wanting to clear her partner's name as a person of interest and discover the truth of it all, continues the investigation on the sly as the higher-ups at her place of work suspiciously wanted that whole thing put to bed. Her chief discovers she's been sneaking around off assignment and keeps increasing her workload and threatening her, so eventually you have to change his heart. After you do, Oya discovers Kaio has been in a mental institution after having suffered a mental shutdown, which means she was definitely a target and scapegoat for Shido, the evil ship captain politician, and his personal garbage can Akechi once they found out she knew too much about the target of their investigation, who happened to be a confidant of Shido's, who they definitely also killed. It's an interesting story arc, but Oya's still kinda gross, so no thanks. Lala-chan, on the other hand, the RuPaul of the bar, is a calming voice of reason throughout your conversations and keeps things steered in the right direction. Props to her /him /spectrum/aliens. Number 8, Haru. Haru, the recently orphaned heiress to Okumura Foods, comes into the storyline pretty late in the game, to where I really had to scramble to get her confidant status to max before the Shido Palace. She requires 5 proficiency right from the start so you can transcendently stick your fingers in her dirt box. She spends most of her dialogue asking you high-level business questions you have no business answering. She has trouble trusting anyone at her company, now that her father has passed, as they're all either suck-ups or traitors, and her ginger monster fiancé doesn't make her life any easier. Things work out by the end, though, as the new president of the company she worried about trusting turns out to be a good guy who wants to take the corporation back to the loving roots of her grandfather and releases her from her marriage contract with her fiancé that apparently never actually existed in the first place. At that point, if I was her, I'd fall for the president. So what if he's 70? He's got it going on, did more for her in 5 minutes than her father did in his life. It would be a happy culmination for daddy issues. I don't like Haru that much because she's a little too weak and in search of affirmation. She relies entirely on other people, and you can tell just from the fact that basically every dialogue option in her confidant ranks give out +3 musical notes. She's not looking for any specific kind of encouragement as long as something sounds positive. Because of this, I'd deduce that she'd be easily manipulated, although on the positive side, it would also mean she's easy to please. She's just not for me. Number 7, Chihaya. Chihaya was actually in my top 3 waifus for a while, until it was revealed that she's been hiding a Cajun accent. Although I guess I shouldn't be surprised since she was one of the mountain hill people in a remote village. She became famous for predicting disasters until people started blaming her for causing them, and she had to run off to Japan, where she was scooped up by a faith healer and made to join a scam organization that sold holy stones for 100,000 yen that promised to give good fortune to dumb people. Chihaya is definitely the most expensive confidant, as you have to buy one of these holy stones at full price before you can even start gaining ranks, and her services cost fees and are extremely frequently necessary for saving time. I don't know why you're still charging me for an affinity reading even after we're rank 10 lovers. Can I get a boyfriend discount at least? Jesus. You'd think with all your fortune-telling skills you'd be able to divine that I'm cheating on you with 8 other girls. I had to be a bad person to get the information necessary to make this video. As you talk to Chihaya, you change her notion that fate can't be changed by continuing to change it in front of her dumbfounded face. Eventually, the chairman of that faith healing thing starts coming around, getting on Chihaya's back about holy stone sales, and lords her pariah past over her head if she refuses to comply with demand. So you need to change his heart, and then everything works out. But yeah, still, that accent. Oh, Bill Cosby! That's my character's name. Oh, Bill, you done went and changed fate again! Yeah, is there a tarot card you can flip over that'll change your dialect? Please go back to talking normal and never let that slip again. Number 6, Hifume. Hifume is a famous shogi player, which is a game I know what it is, totally. Like most of us, she plays games when she's at church, and is also a fraud. As you talk to her, you gain insight into the struggles of being a professional player who is being shoehorned into becoming an idol. Her love of the game and the purity of her commitment is being diluted by countless magazine shoots and attempts to get her into a more mainstream spotlight. Her mother is the one running the gambit on this whole operation, and you eventually need to change her heart to stop her from plaguing her daughter's identity entirely. And that's when you learn that a lot of her shogi matches she famously won were fixed, which is why she isn't respected by other members of her shogi community. She goes up against a real pro with no strings attached and gets dominated, but despite her being wrongly rocketed into the spotlight for skills that aren't as great as advertised, it's a bit sad because her love of the game is real, taking after her late father. He inspired her to become a shogi player, and her overzealous nature acting as the queen of her pieces is from a real place of passion, yet she was still set up to be a disappointment in the eyes of the masses. But in the end, she still just wants to play. 4th worst waifu, next! Number 5, An. An Takamaki, or as Chihaya lovers call her, An Takamaki. I get why some people don't like An. She's pretty, and that's it. They're jealous. She's a model. She doesn't need a strict diet or exercise to maintain her body, and she's not very driven or passionate until the end of her arc. Despite appearances, An is actually kind of an emotional mess. She grapples with feelings of regret and inadequacy, her inability to prevent what happened with Shiho, to stand up to Kamoshida, and it's true that without you to help her, she'd be basically useless and non-functioning, but at the same time you can feel her unstoppable empathy and love for Shiho and anyone who finds themselves in a similar position, hence her resolve to join the Phantom Thieves. She cares a little too much, I would say. There's only so many reassurances you can give a person in the same situation as previous before you're like, alright, she's not getting it. Shiho's strong, you're strong, I don't know how many more times I can repeat this to you. Her confidant path is mostly Shiho depression, with tidbits of modeling woes peppered in, as this upstart named Mika is conniving and ruining her career, outshining her in shoots and posing as agents to get other models' shoots canceled so she can be the backup. I'm surprised you don't actually have to change this girl's heart, but it ends with them forming a rivalry that only An is excited about since Mika still hates the hell out of her. That part of the storyline is shallow to counterbalance all the Shiho stuff that runs deep, which leads to an overall well-rounded and fleshed-out character in the end, but still puts her right in the middle of the pack as waifu material in my humble opinion. Number 4, Takumi. Takumi is a general practitioner who had to move out to the middle of nowhere to start her own practice after she was falsely blamed for the sickness of a young girl. This is one of the better stories in this game, because despite being labeled as the plague and shunned by the rest of the medical community, Takumi persists, seeing patients for small maladies and helpful stimulants, all while trying to perfect a drug she continues to work on for the sake of that little girl who got worse under the terrible rushed care of her superior at the hospital she used to work at. All the while, that department head is coming around, harassing her, making things difficult for her, and trying to get her license revoked, but she perseveres because she has to. She has to make things right for that girl because she was so close to coming up with a cure for the rare disease she has before the incident happened. She'll even go so far as to conduct human trials on the protagonist of a video game that usually end with him passed out. About midway through, that department head comes and tells Takumi the sick girl passed away. This news makes her want to quit, so you have to go change the dude's heart to make him confess to being responsible for getting her into that situation in the first place, during which point you learn that he was lying and the girl's actually very much alive. Takumi is overjoyed to hear this naturally, finishes the cure, heals the little girl, and is invited back to the hospital. As far as waifu material goes, there's some obvious doctor fetish, ooh, examine me, stuff you can think about, which during her final max confidant rank she actually starts to do, and you're like, oh hell yeah. She's like, I'll start with your eyes. And I'm like, how about you skip to my crotch? Is that doable? You can pretty much ignore the whole top half of me if you wanted to just get in on the ground floor of this middle section here. Takumi's cool. She's older, she's a doctor, which means she's making about 60% less than doctors used to make, but still a good amount, and yeah, 4th place waifu right there. And now for my top 3. Number 3, Makoto. Student Council President Makoto enters the picture rather unfavorably at the behest of bald gremlin and soon-to-be roadkill Principal Kobayakawa. Her suspicion of the initial group of Phantom Thieves is very annoying, although justified. and she becomes a quick pain in the ass for the purpose of the plot. As she goes along, though, she's revealed to be battling inner questions of inadequacy in regard to making a difference in the world and people's lives. She feels useless because everyone keeps telling her she is. She's student council president, but up until now she's just been doing as she's told by adults to secure letters of recommendation or other treats like an actual lapdog. Her persona awakening is the one I was excited about the most, and she turns into the most badass of them all with a nuclear motorcycle, even though Queen is another terrible codename I am not behind at all. While it's true that at the beginning she sort of hijacks the group as strategist, she mellows out as the story progresses and becomes much more likable, especially during her confidant adventures that see her looking after a stupid, dumb, idiot girl she's friends with for no reason. As your ranks increase, you will pose as Makoto's boyfriend and try to get dirt on her friend Eiko's suspicious new boyfriend, who might be trying to sell her into sex slavery. No big deal. Once you confront Eiko with this proof, she's still all like, "No, he loves me. He's the only person that ever pays attention to me and calls me princess." And that's when Makoto just calmly walks up and slaps the dickens out of her in a move that made me stand up out of my chair. I was so on board with that decision. It was perfection. At rank 9, you take Makoto to the same bar you've been chatting up Oya in, which is disgusting. Makoto unveils her dream of becoming a police commissioner on her final rank so she can make the memory of her father proud. And it fits. It all fits. She's my third best waifu. Number 2, Kawakami. Oh, the forbidden fruit that bequeaths itself to you from the loins of your teacher. Kawakami is a high school teacher slash sex worker that wears a maid costume and cleans your room, does your laundry, makes lockpicks without asking questions, and cooks curry. What's not to like? Honestly, I do prefer her out of the maid costume. I don't have a maid fetish at all, but I can look past it to see someone who is incredibly passionate about setting young people on the right path to success. Her confidant story is about a previous student she used to tutor. He was a troublemaker, hard luck, worked a ton of jobs, and his parents wanted her to just give up, as they had on him becoming successful, and just wanted him to support them with the money he earned from his extra jobs. Well, Kawakami kept tutoring him anyway like a boss, but one night on the way back from a secret session, he was killed in a car accident in a place he wouldn't have been if he had stopped going to see her. His parents blamed Kawakami for the death and extorted money from her, or else they'd sue the school and have her fired. So Kawakami had to get this maid job to make the payments. Eventually, you change the parents' hearts so they quit riding her for cash, and then you get Kawakami to give you free massages every night. I'm not someone who cares about age for the most part, unless it's like really different. Like, Oya's age had nothing to do with her being gross. So Kawakami to me is just like an early 30s woman who can take care of me. She's very attentive and considerate and wants you to rely on her and seems to enjoy providing for you, which is perfect for me as someone who enjoys being drastically enabled. I don't like back or shoulder massages though, so we'd have to figure out somewhere else for her hands to go. I wonder. Number 1, Futaba. I am Futaba, only I don't get the luxury of a change of heart to make me more socially adjustable. By the way, before anyone is all like, ew, pedophile, remember that the protagonist is the one dating these characters, so you're supposed to view everything from his 16-year-old eyes, and Futaba is only a year below that. Futaba awakening to her persona is the most emotionally gripping moment of the whole game, and her whole arc is just non-stop empathetic tragedy. She extorts, at first, the Phantom Thieves into stealing her own heart, so she can stop being weighed down and trapped by her guilt about her dead mother. She was told her mom committed suicide and it was her fault, but as you go through her palace and release the truth, you get to see Futaba finally stand up to her demons and realize that her mother was a mental shutdown victim like so many others, murdered for her cognitive research and knowledge of the metaverse. She's still very much a shy, neurotic, Aspergery shut-in, just like me, but now with the help of her new friends, she can work on it. Her confidant ranks involve you helping her adjust to normal things, like going with her to public places, getting her comfortable around people in school, and helping change the heart of the parents of her only friend she ever had back in elementary school, who were abusing her and dressing her like a skank, I guess, for whatever reason. Futaba is cute, above all else, and her inability to really deal with her feelings plays out romantically in an endearing way. As someone with major social anxiety bordering on paranoia, when I think about Futaba being waifu, I imagine situations in which, since we're both so socially inept, one or both of us have to rise up to the challenge for the sake of the other person. We'd be each other's rock to lean on for support and use to ascend to the higher planes of normalcy in society, and we'd feel good about it and not crumble or fold under the pressure because we'd know it's for each other. Or maybe we'd both fold and run home together. There's comfort to be had in that too. Well, that's going to do it for this video. There's no Sai Nijima because you can't romance her, and there's no prison twins because that would be uncomfortable. I hope you enjoyed it. I've got more videos like it and a bunch of videos nothing like it. If you like the comedy aspect of this, I've got a Stream of Consciousness series you should check out. And otherwise, like, share, and subscribe, and donate to me on Patreon, and I'll see you guys next time.